She was never the poison. You were the one with the thirst. Let that truth sink into your bones. Let it burn away the comforting lies you've been telling yourself. She didn't break you. She was simply the force of nature that revealed you were already broken. You see, a man is not defeated on a battlefield by a superior enemy. He is defeated in his own mind, long before the first blow is ever struck. You lost the war for your own soul because you were desperate for a beautiful enemy to surrender to. She didn't just leave you. She dismantled you piece by piece, with the casual precision of a bomb disposal expert who decided, halfway through the job, that detonation was the more interesting option. And you watched her do it. You held the light for her. You pointed out the weak spots. Do you remember that night? The one where the air was thick with the smell of expensive wine and quiet, professional ambition. The room was full of ghosts from your future and your past. Colleagues, rivals, the people whose respect you thought you were earning. You were telling a story, feeling the familiar warmth of command in your voice, the subtle deference in their eyes. You were, for a fleeting moment, the man you always envisioned yourself to be. Then you looked at her. She was across the room, a fixed point in the swirling chaos of social maneuvering. She wasn't looking at you. Her attention was locked on your biggest professional rival, a man you considered a shallow imitation of genuine talent. She was laughing. It wasn't a polite laugh. It was a deep, genuine, throaty laugh that seemed to suck all the oxygen out of your side of the room. He said something, and she touched his arm. A gesture so brief, so insignificant, yet it was a declaration of allegiance, a public transfer of power. In that single, silent moment, she shifted the entire gravitational field of the room. Your story died in your throat. The eyes of your audience flickered from you to her and then back to you. But they saw something different now. They saw a king whose queen had just publicly acknowledged another court. You weren't a commander anymore. You were a court jester, suddenly aware that his jokes were no longer funny. She had gutted you without saying a word, without raising her voice. She had used your own need for her approval as the weapon and turned your stage into a scaffold. Modern self-reliance whispers a brutal axiom that most men are too terrified to hear. The cage is not the problem. The problem is the part of you that loves the cage because it saves you from the terror of being free. You thought her passion was a fire that warmed you, but it was a forge, and you were the soft, pliable metal she was hammering into a shape of her own design. A shape that was weaker, smaller, and more convenient for her. This intoxicating cycle of being lifted to the heavens one day and cast into the abyss the next. It wasn't a flaw in the relationship, it was the entire point. It was an addiction, a carefully administered dose of chaos that kept you kneeling, begging for the next hit of validation, the next fleeting moment of her sun-drenched approval. You mistook the intensity of the pain for the intensity of the love. Now you stand in the rubble of your own identity, wondering how it all came down so fast. But the real question, the one that will either be your salvation or your final damnation, isn't how she destroyed you. The real question is why you were so willing to hand her the detonator. This is the war that is never fought with armies, but in the silent corridors of the mind. If this battlefield feels familiar, if you recognize the scent of your own emotional blood in the air, then your training begins now. This is not a place for consolation. It is a place for strategy. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, because the most critical lessons are the ones you can't afford to miss. Give this video a like to signal that you are no longer a passive victim, but an active combatant in the war for your own self-respect. And in the comments below, a first strategic exercise. Tell us the city you're watching from. Declare your territory. And if you have the courage, name the primary weapon that was used to dismantle you. Was it the devastating power of her silence? The intoxicating illusion of her validation? Or the slow-acting poison of her indifference? Let us know where you're starting this fight. Your answer is the first step in disarming the enemy and beginning the long, brutal, and glorious process of rebuilding your empire from the ashes. Let's begin the autopsy. Not of a relationship, but of a surrender. What you experienced wasn't a breakup. It was a quiet coup d'etat, executed so flawlessly in the chambers of your own mind that you didn't even realize you had been deposed until you saw another man sitting on your throne. The premise you've been operating under is fundamentally flawed. You believe your authority was taken from you. It wasn't. It was given away, piece by piece, in a series of strategic miscalculations and emotional concessions that you disguised as love, as compromise, as maturity. Each one was a small, seemingly insignificant treaty, but in the end, you had ceded all your territory. The first stage of your downfall was the concession of emotional ground. It didn't start with a dramatic fight. It never does. It started with something small. Do you remember? Perhaps you had plans with your friends, a long-standing commitment, a ritual that was part of the architecture of your life before her. And she was in a mood. The air grew heavy. Her words became clipped. She didn't forbid you from going. She was too smart for that. Instead, she let the silence do the work. The silent disapproval, the subtle withdrawal of warmth. It was a test, a pressure test on your frame. And you, seeking to restore the immediate comfort of her approval, made the first fatal error. You canceled. You told your friends something came up. You chose her immediate emotional comfort over your own integrity and your prior commitments. In that moment, you taught her a critical lesson. Your world, your structure, your very identity was negotiable. Her feelings, however fleeting or irrational, held veto power over your reality. Tested. You yielded. She won. This wasn't a compromise. It was a transfer of power. You traded a piece of your sovereignty for a moment of peace, and she learned that your sovereignty was for sale. From that first concession, the path descends into the second phase, the relentless pursuit of validation. Having learned that her approval is a currency that can alter your behavior, she begins to control its supply. This is where the cycle of love bombing and devaluation truly takes root. The days of intense affection, where you feel like the center of her universe, are not random acts of passion. They are the reward. They are the dose of the drug administered after you have behaved correctly. After you've prioritized her over your work, your ambitions, your own mental peace. Then comes the withdrawal, the sudden coldness, the unexplained distance, the criticism veiled as a joke. This is the punishment. This is the induced withdrawal that makes you desperate for the next hit. Your internal compass, the one that should be guided by your own principles and goals, is now recalibrated to a single true north: her validation. You stop asking yourself, what do I want to do? And you start asking, what must I do to make her happy with me again? You begin to see your own needs as obstacles to her affection. You start to edit your thoughts before you speak, sanding down any edge that might cause friction. You become a curated version of yourself, designed for her consumption. The man you were is being hollowed out, and the void is being filled with a desperate, clawing need for her. You mistook the intensity of this cycle for the intensity of love, but it was the calculated intensity of an addiction being carefully managed. This leads directly to the third, and perhaps most emasculating phase: the loss of emotional control. A man's power resides in his emotional stillness, his ability to remain the calm center in the storm. You gave that away. Her moods began to dictate yours. If she was happy, you were granted permission to feel relief. If she was upset, your entire world was thrown into a state of emergency. Her silence became the most potent weapon in her arsenal. It was not the absence of communication. It was a declaration of dominance. You would feel it the moment you walked in the door, the oppressive weight of her unspoken displeasure, and you would crumble. You would chase her, pleading, "What's wrong? What did I do? Just talk to me." You broke the cardinal rule of power. You broke your silence first. You revealed that her emotional state was more important than your own peace. You demonstrated that her quiet disapproval was an agony you could not withstand. And in that moment, she knew she had complete control of your emotional thermostat. She could plunge you into a freezing winter of anxiety with a single look, and you would do anything, say anything, concede anything, to feel the warmth of her sun again. When you apologized for a crime you didn't even understand, you weren't just saying sorry. You were signing your unconditional surrender. You were admitting that in her court, you were guilty until she decided you were innocent. The final stage is total affective dependency. This is the end game. At this point, your self-worth is entirely outsourced to her. You no longer exist as a sovereign entity. You are a satellite, and she is the planet you orbit. Your victories at work mean nothing until she acknowledges them. Your own thoughts and opinions feel invalid until she co-signs them. You live in a constant low-grade state of fear. Fear of her leaving, fear of her disapproval, fear of saying the wrong thing. This is the cage the modern man builds for himself. He calls it love, he calls it devotion, but it is a prison of his own making, built from the bars of his own neediness. You thought her passion was a fire that warmed you, but it was a forge. You were the raw iron, and she was the blacksmith, hammering you into a shape that was more convenient for her. A shape that was weaker, smaller, and would not challenge her. You became predictable. You became manageable. You ceased to be a force of nature in your own right, and instead became a resource to be managed. The tragedy is not that she built the cage. The tragedy is that you handed her the blueprints, paid for the materials, and held the door open for yourself. Let's dissect a common scenario. She brings up a past mistake of yours during an unrelated argument. It's a low blow, designed to destabilize you and put you on the defensive. The correct strategic move is to remain calm, identify the tactic, and refuse to engage. A simple, "We are discussing the current issue. I will not be dragged into a fight about the past," establishes a boundary. It communicates that you will not be emotionally manipulated. But what did you do? You took the bait. You became defensive. You relitigated the old argument. You got emotional. You let her change the battlefield to one where she had the higher ground. You lost control of the frame. She tested you, and you failed. Or consider a more subtle example. At work, you're in a meeting, and you present an idea. A female colleague, perhaps one with a sharp and dominant personality, immediately dismisses it with a casual, "I just don't think that will work." Instead of holding your ground, asking her to substantiate her claim with data, or calmly defending your position, you felt a flash of self-doubt. You hesitated. Softened your stance. "Well, just an initial thought," you might have said. That moment, everyone in the room saw your authority flicker. You communicated that your conviction was fragile and could be dismantled with a single, unsupported challenge. The fall is not a loud explosion. It is the silent hesitation. It is the yes you say out of fear of conflict. It is the apology offered to quell a storm you did not create. Now, I can hear the objections forming in your mind. The rationalizations that have kept you in this prison. The first is the great lie. "But I was just being a good partner." Relationships are about compromise. Let me be brutally clear. You were not compromising. You were capitulating. Compromise happens between two sovereign powers who meet in the middle. Capitulation is when one power consistently cedes territory to avoid conflict. A relationship built on your constant surrender is not a partnership. It is a benevolent dictatorship, and your role is that of the compliant subject. You didn't build a bridge. You laid yourself down like a rug so she wouldn't have to get her feet wet. The second objection is the shield of her victimhood. You don't understand. She's been through so much. Her reactions are because of her trauma. Her past may be an explanation for her behavior, but it is not an excuse for you to abandon your own self-respect. Trauma is not your responsibility to fix, especially when the price of trying is the complete erosion of your own identity. You are not her therapist. You are not her savior. And every time you accepted her toxic behavior under the guise of understanding her pain, you enabled her and weakened yourself. You taught her that her wounds gave her a license to wound you. This is the cruelest irony. In trying to be her savior, you ensured you would become her victim. No one is coming to save you from this. Your salvation is not in fixing her. It is in fixing the part of you that believes you must set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. The third and most insidious objection is the appeal to a higher ideal. This all sounds so manipulative and cynical. Just want a healthy, loving relationship. And I tell you, you will never have one until you understand the mechanics of power. A healthy relationship is not one devoid of power. It is one where power is balanced. It is a dance between two strong, self-respecting individuals, not a dynamic between a master and a servant. Your desire for a nice, conflict-free relationship made you a perfect target. You were so afraid of being the bad guy that you allowed yourself to be endlessly victimized. True strength, the kind that fosters genuine respect and attraction, is not found in being endlessly agreeable. It is found in having unshakable boundaries. It is found in your ability to say no and to withstand the emotional fallout. It is found in demonstrating that your love for her will never, ever eclipse your fundamental respect for yourself. You must understand that her respect for you is directly proportional to the respect you have for yourself. When you gave up your plans, when you apologized for things that were not your fault, when you allowed her moods to terrorize you, you were not showing her you loved her. You were showing her you didn't respect yourself. And a woman cannot, will not, and biologically is not designed to respect a man who does not respect himself. She may love the security you provide, she may enjoy the comfort of your compliance, but she will not respect you. And without respect, attraction is impossible. She will seek that thrill of a strong frame, of an unshakable man, elsewhere. Just like she did that night, when her laughter for your rival was the public announcement of your deposition. This diagnosis is harsh because the disease is terminal to your spirit. It's time to stop being a patient and become the surgeon. It's time to cut out the rot of neediness and validation seeking. This is not about blaming her. Blame is a useless and weak emotion. She was simply a force of nature, and you were a house with a weak foundation. The storm is not to blame for revealing the cracks in your walls. This is about a cold, hard, strategic analysis of your own failures. This diagnosis resonates in the marrow of your bones. If you recognize your own story in this brutal autopsy, then your work has just begun. This is the point of no return. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion, for this is not a channel. It is an armory for the war in your mind. Give this video a like to declare that you are finished being a spectator in your own downfall and are now stepping into the arena. Activate all notifications, because every lesson from here on out is a piece of the armor you will need to rebuild yourself. And now, for your first act of brutal honesty, answer this in the comments. What was the first boundary you let her cross? What was that first small concession that you now realize was the beginning of your surrender? Acknowledging the location of the first breach is the first step to rebuilding the fortress. Look back at the chain of events. The pattern is undeniable. The emotional concession, the hunt for validation, the loss of control, the final dependency. It was a perfect, self-perpetuating machine of self-destruction. And you were its willing operator. You were so thirsty for the oasis that you failed to see the poison in the well. But the truth is, she was never the poison. You were the one with the thirst. And only when you master that thirst, when you can look at the poison and feel nothing, will you truly be free. The fall was not visible. It happened in the silence, in the hesitation, in the thousand small surrenders you made when no one else was watching. You were watching. And your soul kept the score. There is no going back for the weak. There is only destruction of the new. Let that sentence burn itself into your mind until it becomes the first principle of your new reality. The man you were, the one who handed her the detonator, is dead. You will not mourn him. You will not honor his memory. You will treat his existence as a strategic failure to be studied, stripped for intelligence, and then discarded. Your reconstruction is not a journey of healing. It is the cold, methodical assembly of a weapon. It is not emotional, it is tactical. Forget everything you think you know about getting over someone. You are not getting over anything. You are building over it. You are constructing a skyscraper of self-mastery on the rubble of your surrender, so tall that you can no longer even see the ruins where you once knelt. Your first command is this: cut the excess. Your life has become bloated with the non-essential. Your time, your energy, your focus, all of it has been hemorrhaging into a black hole of her validation. The bleed stops now. This is a scorched earth policy directed at your own weakness. Every habit, every routine, every thought that is connected to her must be treated as a hostile agent and neutralized. The photos on your phone are not memories. They are enemy propaganda. Delete them. Social media accounts you check are not windows into her life. They are enemy reconnaissance channels. Block them. The mutual friends you probe for information are not allies. They are double agents compromising your position. Cease contact. This is not about anger or bitterness. Those are weak, indulgent emotions. This is about operational security. You cannot build a fortress if you leave the gates open for the enemy to waltz in and assess your progress. You are going dark. You are creating a complete and total information vacuum. This is the first stage of reinstalling scarcity. You have been an abundant, predictable resource. Now you will become a ghost. A question mark. A void. She will reach for the familiar comfort of your attention, your reaction, and she will find nothing. Old, smooth wall where a door used to be. The second command, install silence. Your words have been your weakness. You use them to plead, to explain, to justify, to beg. You revealed your entire emotional state, handing her the manual on how to control you. From this moment forward, silence is your primary weapon and your impenetrable shield. When she inevitably reaches out, and she will, because a controller cannot stand to lose control, you will not respond. Not a word. Emoji. Nothing. You must understand the battlefield of the modern world. A text message is a probe. An email is a test. A phone call is an invasion. Every attempt she makes to communicate is a test of your new frame. Responding, even to say, "Leave me alone," is a failure. A response signals that she still has the power to provoke a reaction. It tells her you are still engaged in the game, that you are still on the board. Your silence is your resignation from her game. It is a declaration that the rules have changed because you are no longer playing. Your silence is not passive. It is an active, deafening statement. It says, "You no longer have access to my emotional state. You no longer have the power to command my attention. You no longer exist in my operational theater. Do not reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. Let her sit with the echo of her own words, unanswered. In that void, her power dissolves and your own solidifies. When interaction is absolutely unavoidable, through professional or logistical necessity, you execute the third command. Maintain minimal and unpredictable contact. Your communication must become a tool of strategic ambiguity. Your demeanor should be that of a busy, focused executive dealing with a low-priority subordinate. Be polite, be professional, but be distant. Your answers should be brief, factual, and devoid of any emotional data. Yes, no, acknowledged. I will handle it. You are a gray rock. You offer no surface for her to get a grip, no emotional hook for her to latch onto. And within this minimalism, you must be unpredictable. One day, you might offer a brief, professional smile. The next, you are a complete wall of ice. This is not a game. It is a tactic of psychological disruption. Predictability made you weak. She knew exactly which buttons to push. Unpredictability makes you formidable. It forces her to expend mental energy trying to figure you out, trying to regain a foothold. She will be unable to get a consistent read on you, and this will slowly dismantle her sense of control. You are no longer her emotional support animal or her court jester. You are a variable she cannot solve. Be the absence that carries weight, not the presence that begs. These first three commands are defensive maneuvers, designed to stop the bleeding and secure your perimeter. But a war is not won by defense alone. Fourth command is the offensive. It is the most important, and it will consume your entire existence. Total focus on hierarchical ascension. Every ounce of energy you once poured into her, you will now pour into the four pillars of your new empire: your physique, your finances, your social capital, and your mission. You will go to war with your body. You will treat the gym not as a place for health, but as a forge. You are not lifting weights. You are forging armor and sharpening a weapon. Every rep, every drop of sweat is an act of defiance against the weak man you used to be. You will go to war with your financial state. You will attack your work with a relentless, single-minded ferocity. You are not earning a living. You are amassing resources, building a war chest. Money is a tool of power. It buys freedom, it buys options, it buys influence. You will become so financially powerful that her existence becomes a rounding error in your accounts. You will go to war in the social arena. You will cultivate networks of powerful men. You will build alliances. You will be seen in places of influence with people of substance. Your social value must become so self-evident that her opinion of you becomes laughably irrelevant. And most importantly, you will lock onto your mission. That singular purpose that you abandoned in your pursuit of her. Whether it's building a business, mastering a skill, or creating a legacy, it now becomes your one true north. This mission is the engine of your reconstruction. It is what will pull you out of bed in the morning. It is what will keep you working while others are sleeping. A man with a mission is a force of nature. He is magnetic. He is dangerous. Women are instinctively, primally drawn to a man on his path, a man consumed by a purpose greater than herself. This is the ultimate reversal of the frame. You stopped chasing her and started chasing greatness, and in doing so, the dynamic inverts. She may begin to chase you. But by the time she does, you will be so far down your path that you will barely notice her in your rearview mirror. A man who wants to be loved will be discarded. A man who imposes his presence will be feared. But a man who is consumed by his mission will be revered. And that is a higher form of power altogether. This is not a hope. This is a plan. It is a strategic blueprint for the systematic dismantling of your old self and the construction of a new one. Modern self-reliance dictates a brutal truth. The universe does not respond to your desires. It responds to your standards. You are not wishing for respect. You are making yourself into a man who commands it by his very presence. You are not hoping she sees your value. You are building a value so immense that it is undeniable to everyone, making her validation completely unnecessary. You are not trying to win her back. Let the weak think in terms of reconquest. You are making yourself into an entirely new entity, a man she never knew and is not qualified to be with. The goal is not for her to want you back. The goal is for you to look back in 6 months and not even recognize the man who would have settled for so little. If you are ready to execute this plan, if you are prepared to burn the old maps and embrace the cold calculus of power, then your first tactical move is to secure your intelligence channels. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, because every piece of content here is a weapon for your arsenal. Give this video a like to signal your enlistment in this war against your own weakness. And now for your first battlefield assessment, answer this in the comments. Which of the 4 pillars of your empire, your physique, your finances, your social circle, or your mission, is your most critical vulnerability right now? Be specific. Naming your weakest point is the first step to fortifying it. This is your new campaign. The objective is not her. The objective is dominion. Over yourself, over your reality, over your destiny. The thirst for her is a sickness. Now you will cultivate a new thirst, a thirst for power. The final stage is not recovery. Recovery is for the sick. Recovery implies a return to a previous state. You will never go back. The man who knelt is a ghost, a cautionary tale you will tell yourself in the dead of night to remember the price of weakness. This final stage is an ascension. It is the forging of a new entity from the ashes of the old, a being of pure, unadulterated will. You have followed the commands. You have cut the excess. You have installed the silence. You have mastered strategic ambiguity. And you have waged a relentless war on the 4 pillars of your empire. The architecture of your new reality is complete. The foundation is solid. The walls are impenetrable. And now the world will test it. The moment will come. It always does. The universe enjoys symmetry. You will find yourself back in a room just like the one where she dismantled you. The air will be thick with the same ambition, the same quiet maneuvering for status, and you will see her. She will be there. Perhaps she will be with him, the rival, or perhaps with a new man, a placeholder in the ceaseless rotation of her need for external validation. And as your eyes meet across the room, the world will hold its breath, waiting for the echo of that first detonation. She will be waiting for it. She will be looking for the flicker of pain, the shadow of anger, the ghost of the man she could control. She needs to see it. Her power over you was a drug, and she is still an addict, looking for one last hit to prove she still has the formula. But she will find nothing. You will not look away in anger. You will not offer a pained, forced smile. You will not ignore her in a way that is loud and performative. You will simply look at her and through her, as if she were a pane of glass separating you from something of mild passing interest. Your gaze will be calm, neutral, and utterly vacant of the history she expects to see there. In your eyes, she will not see a former lover. She will see a stranger, a non-entity, a ghost from a war that has long since been won and forgotten. You will offer a slow, almost imperceptible nod, not to her, but to the man she is with. A gesture of professional courtesy from one man of status to another. A gesture that so completely erases her from the interaction that it is more devastating than any insult. You will then turn your attention back to the conversation you were having, with the more powerful, more influential people, who now gravitate towards your new center of gravity. You will not give her a second thought, because your mind is occupied with the business of your empire, and she is, at best, a forgotten footnote in a discarded battle plan. In that moment, she will understand. The silence you have cultivated for months was not the pained silence of a wounded man. It was the indifferent silence of a god who no longer hears the prayers of a forgotten worshipper. You will see the change in your physique, the quiet authority in your posture, the way other powerful men defer to you. She will feel the shift in the room's gravitational field, the same way you felt it all that time ago. But this time, it is you who is the sun, and she is just a cold, distant rock cast in the shadow of your light. She lost her power not when you stopped loving her, but when you stopped needing her validation. Chessboard has not just been flipped. You have melted the pieces, burned the board, and walked away from the game entirely, because you are now playing a bigger one, for higher stakes, on a global scale. She was a city-level skirmish. You are now fighting for continents. This is the nature of emotional revenge. It is not an act of aggression. It is an act of transcendence. True revenge is not making her feel the pain she made you feel. It is to reach a state where her existence is so peripheral to your own that you feel nothing at all. It is to build a life so magnificent, so filled with purpose and power, that your time with her shrinks into a single, insignificant data point from your past. Respect is not begged for. It is not negotiated, and it is not earned through compliance. It is commanded. It is imposed through the sheer, undeniable weight of your value. It is imposed by your absence, by the void you leave that she can no longer fill. It is imposed by the cold, hard truth that you moved on not to someone else, but to something else. To greatness. This is your new creed. A manifesto burned into your soul. You are not the sum of your wounds. You are the product of your discipline. You are not defined by who left you. You are defined by what you built when they were gone. You will continue to ascend, not to prove her wrong, but to prove yourself right. You will become a force of nature, a man of unshakable frame and unwavering purpose. The thirst you once had for her approval has been replaced by an unquenchable hunger for your own potential. You are ready to stop being a character in someone else's story and start writing your own epic. Then your final command is to solidify your alliance with this new philosophy. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, for this is not just a channel, it is the forge where your new self is being built. Give this video a like as a final pact to never again surrender the throne of your own mind. And for your final strategic declaration, answer this in the comments. What is the one word that will define the next chapter of your life? Is it empire? Is it power? Is it freedom? Is it dominion? Declare your future. The war was never about her. It was about the throne inside your own mind. And the king has finally returned.